All right, we are live. So welcome everybody. We're here with Travis Conover. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Travis, I appreciate you coming on and being able to, share your story and be able to explain the movie that you are creating and exactly the details that are behind that and why you got involved and the reason why you're doing what you're doing. So, with this, we are all here and put on this earth for a reason. I believe one of those reasons is to protect our children and guide those children down the path that is a positive path in life that they can continue sharing that with their future peers. It is our duty and privilege to protect their innocence and guide them in the right direction. So, Kim, you want to go and take it over?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Veterans for Child Rescue, we are a nonprofit and we were founded in April of 2017. Our team is comprised of military professionals as well as former and current law enforcement and senior intelligence community veterans, as well as child abuse and trafficking survivors and people who are willing to do whatever it takes to end child trafficking in the USA. So our goal is to expose it as well as eradicate it. So we have a 100% conviction rate. We do a lot to put bad guys behind bars, but a big part of our mission is also to raise awareness. Awareness in this matter is so important. It's an entire topic of its own, but the short version is that awareness also reduces the predator's ability to operate. Raising awareness informs people of what to look for and what to do, but it also makes it harder for bad guys to do bad things. So, we go live as often as we can, normally on a weekly basis, with different people who are in this fight, approaching it from different aspects of this fight and doing different things because there are so many layers and levels to this. And not everyone really understands all the aspects that it takes for all of us to work together to really make an effective difference. So, today we're joined by Travis Conover. Him and his team are doing a movie about human trafficking, and a big part of that is for the sake of getting the conversation started, exposing it, and also raising people's level of awareness and understanding to connect with this concept. What is this? Why is this a thing in our country? And also, what can we do about it?
Yes.
So, Travis, do you want to give us just a brief introduction about you and, a little bit about your background and then specifically about this project? What's it all about?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the intro. As far as kind of my history with this subject, it's been, something that has been really important to me for a long time. I can remember even as a teenager, I know I still look like I might be a teenager, but I'm in my 30s. I am a father at this point. I have um, a lot more children than you'd probably guess. But even as a young man just growing up, you know, you remember the movie Taken, which most people are familiar with. I remember seeing that movie in my 20s and being, I mean, literally furious about it. And a lot of people can just watch it and kind of walk away and say, "Wow, that was a great action film." Liam Neeson's great. That movie had me fuming for a long time, and I was like, "This is actually happening. I know it's happening, and something has to be done about it." But what could I do about it? Right? I was in my mid 20s, and there's really no plan of action for me. So it has been something that's been on my heart for a long time. I started working in the film industry about 10 years ago. Started with acting as kind of my primary gateway into it. I did some like modeling and acting, some commercials, some web series, and about 3 years into my acting career, I realized I had some stories that I wanted to tell. So I just started writing, and I've written probably about 7 feature films now. Written a couple TV series, a bunch of short films. I've directed, probably 15 short films, and I've produced some features, but I haven't produced a feature that I've written yet. And one day, I guess it was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I have this idea. I'm like, it's time to write this story. So I walk downstairs, quietly sneak through my house, get into my office, and just take some time in my quiet time to pray about it. And then I just started writing. And I ended up writing like the first 12 pages very quickly. I mean, it was like probably less than an hour. I wrote 12 pages, and I was like, was like, maybe I should talk to Matt, who is my business partner. He's co-producing this project. I talked to Matt about it, and I was like, I want to shoot the first 12 pages, and maybe we'll make this a mini series. Maybe we'll make this something where we can shoot it low budget, no budget, and tell a story that's still compelling, even though we don't have a huge budget. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. That'll get the word out, and it'll be a great way for us to kind of connect and hone our skills even further, right? So we did that, and it became something much more. It was very obvious right away that like we were onto something. And the name originally was Ava, which is the name of the girl. She plays my niece in the film. She gets kidnapped, and like right from her home, basically in suburban Atlanta. And it kind of evolved from there, and it ended up becoming Lions and Lambs. And now we are in the process of refining the feature film script. I'm working with an incredible writer. His name is Don Willis. He's had some features go to theaters. He literally has over 60 writing awards. The guy is just phenomenal. So I do everything. I co-write everything that I write with Don Willis, just because he's one of the best. And we just have a great team. So yeah, we're super excited. Lions and Lambs is something that right now we're in the fundraising stage. So it's still the infantile stages. We have a great story. We have an amazing cast and crew, like people that we're friends with in the industry that have just come on board and said, hey, I want to be a part of this because I believe in you, and I believe in the subject matter, and we want to collaborate. We want to do something important and powerful. I think there's a lot of entertainment out there right now that's just crank it out there so we can get a paycheck, or crank it out there so we can push this or push that. And the quality of entertainment has slowly gone downhill. We've seen Marvel even, which is one of the biggest studios ever, take a nosedive, and all of their shows are kind of tanking and stuff like that. And I'm not bashing them or anything, but we've just seen quality kind of go, and messaging really not go in the right direction. And we're not trying to, preach or proselytize or do anything like that. We're just trying to shed some light on something, but make a really awesome action-packed thriller that happens to be about a really important subject, and more specifically, like in Atlanta, which is where we live and where we know is a huge hub for this type of thing, right? So where you can find us is on Indiegogo. If you just look up Lions and Lambs on Indiegogo, that's the best way to find that project. And there's a really cool teaser trailer that we made already with some of the footage that we had, and we spliced some footage from another film that was already produced. We don't own that footage. We're not making money off that footage. It's literally just for like a proof of concept. And so we have a great little teaser trailer, and then we have kind of the explanation of how and why and what we're doing. So that's probably the best place to get like the most details.
That's awesome. So we put that link in the comments for everyone watching, or for anyone watching the replay. Awesome. You can check out that link and you can support them, but also find out more about the story and watch the trailer. Like he said, there's also a good little rundown of the actors and the different people involved in this project. So Travis, out of curiosity, when you give people this idea or sort of let them know what the concept is, what's the general reaction you get from most people?
It's pretty mixed. I think there's a broad spectrum of everywhere from we got to do something now to I can't handle this, right? And I think that's why storytelling and writing and creating films is so powerful, because honestly, some people you talk about, it's like, yeah, man, we gotta do something. Let's do something. And obviously, Vets for Child Rescue is doing something like actively on the ground consistently, right? And that's why it's so important to give and to become a part of this movement, right? So, and I think there's people that literally can't handle it, and that's why, watching a documentary or reading a book about this for some people is just going to be a hard no. So I think film is cool because if they see an action-packed trailer and it kind of gives them this, it's certainly not trickery or anything. It's just going to be an awesome action-packed movie. But then when they go see it for the action, then they're going to get this messaging of like, wow, this is really happening. You know, so the reactions are pretty varied. Some people are really gung ho, and some people are like, well, that's not really happening, right? I'm like, no, let me tell you some statistics. You know, let me show you some news headlines. And in our Indiegogo video, we actually have some headlines of people in Atlanta recently. 32 children were rescued from an sex trafficking ring, and more recently, like 200 people were brought in. So it was like hundreds of people are being brought down, and for some reason, it's just not getting covered. So I think this is a great way to kind of inject some of that truth into people's everyday lives.
Yeah, I noticed, a lot of those reports that are around your area, the 200, and I remember seeing that report. It's very, it's very difficult to get the message out there, especially with all the top coverage that's involved with it, and the ways that you are being creative on being able to get your message out there, and the creative mind that you have by producing a feature film. I believe that is a really good tool to use. So, keep on doing what you're doing with this. And, I like the trailer. I shared it on our TikTok, and I pretty much got nothing but positive comments on it. I was like, would you like to watch this? That's kind of what we've done, with in the past. And, I'm very excited to see that people are getting more and more involved and being able to see this type of stuff. And, y'all that are paying attention to this, please do go over there to Indigo and look up Lines and Lands, watch the trailer. We'll try and share it on our social media and see what you guys think of it, and give us a review. Tell us what you think about it. And that way Travis can take that information. He can go back to the drawing board and get this thing the right way and produce it in the correct manner. So thank you for doing that, Travis. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. Like Tyler was saying, a lot of people can't connect with this concept. So I want to unpack this with you a little bit more, both from personal interest, but also because, like I said, a huge part of what we do is raising awareness. So what we're doing is essentially bridging the gap in people's understanding and perception and the communication overall. So I want to understand just from your perspective, because we see things through our lens and also the people that we experience. But in a project like this, right, I want to kind of talk about the mixed emotions. So for the group of people that maybe don't want to hear it for whatever reason, I would assume there's various subcategories within that, right? What has been your experience in that?
So with people that aren't ready for the message?
Yeah, for whatever reason they're not receptive or not ready for it, are you seeing different patterns? Like, for example, what I see is there's people that are like, there's no way that's happening. In other words, they're in disbelief because they're unaware. And when you talk about it with them and give them statistics, they're like, oh my God, that's not okay, right?
Yeah.
So there's a total lack of awareness in some people. In other people, and again, we're talking about the overall generalized group of people that are somehow resistant or unwilling to face this information. There's another group of people that are like just in denial for different reasons. And that's a whole thing. And then I see a separate group of people that simply cannot handle it. Now, there may be some within that population that are triggered by it because they've experienced extreme trauma. So they're just like, oh, I can't, that's too much. I can't watch that. I definitely have an understanding of that. But there's another subcategory of people who just kind of can't face it, where they're like, oh no, that's gross. I can't handle, that's too scary. That's no thanks. No thanks, right? It's
well,
to me.
That's very astute. Yeah, I would say all three of those are correct, or all four of those are correct. And what's interesting about there's only really two mainstream films about this subject matter. Let's be honest. The story is not really being told in a big way. Taken was 12 years ago or something like that, 10, 15. I don't even know what it was, but it was quite a long time ago. And the girl's American, sure, but she goes over to Europe, and that's when she's kidnapped, right? So they take it away from the home field so that it doesn't feel as real. And then another one that I could think of where there's some mix of this in there, where a girl gets kidnapped, is in one of the newest Rambo movies. I think it's Rambo 5, and not really a family member, but someone who's really close to him gets kidnapped, but it's in Mexico. So they've taken the home field, feelings that we would feel if this was happening, let's say in New York or Chicago or LA or Atlanta, right? They take those feelings and they kind of push them off to the side because it's like, oh, it's not really happening here. And I think that's when people start to like cringe and have kind of a I can't handle this reaction, when it's like, you mean there's thousands of children missing in the US right now? Like every single year, thousands of children are being taken in the US right now. A lot of people can't handle that. And I think that's kind of the reaction is, especially if you start talking statistics, I think it's a lot of unbelief. It's a lot of like, well, why is no one talking about this? That seems crazy. That seems ridiculous. And it's like, well, let's look it up, And again, I'm not trying to shove anything down anyone's throat. I think a lot of times that will turn them off more. I think that's why something like this is really interesting, because we can say in the film even, and I'm not saying we're doing this, but for example, it's like we could put stats in the film through exposition, right? Through dialogue. And then that might actually start to sink in and hit home, because they're watching it in a medium that they've already opened themselves up to the idea of watching this film and taking in what we're showing them. So it's like, without ramming it down their throat and having that immediate fear response, they can kind of see it in a much softer approach. When you watch a movie, you're already open to what's about to happen, right? So they come at it like this, as opposed to like, no, I'm not ready to listen to that. So yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of different reactions, and fear is a huge one. Believe it or not, most of the time it's mothers who can't handle it, because all they think of is that could be my child, right? So I think mothers are probably the hardest ones to kind of breach that heart barrier of like, nope, I'm mama bear, I'm going to protect, which is their job, and that's awesome, and I'm glad they feel that way. But being educated and being aware is how you protect, right? So we want to do this with so much love and compassion that we're not beating anybody over the head. This is totally about like, hey, we love these kids. I have 12 children, right? So like, this subject hits home very hard for me, and my wife, and she's really passionate. When we met, it was like, we talked about this on the first date. The first time we ever met, we were talking about human trafficking. And it was like, that's a weird first date, but that's how passionate we've been about it for so long. So yeah, I think a lot of it is just straight up fear and denial.
Yeah, there is. And like, ignorance just means you don't know, right? There's a lot of people who have never been faced with this, thankfully. In other words, good that they're not aware of it in some ways.
Yeah.
But knowledge is power. And I also feel like in this day and age, when we have so much information available in the palm of our hands, I feel like in most cases, ignorance is a choice, meaning you can decide to remove yourself. And that's not always a bad thing, to remove yourself from negativity or from things you can't affect. As an example, I don't watch the news. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of time-consuming information, and I can't necessarily impact all of that. I don't choose to spend my bandwidth consuming that information and just getting mad, because I don't feel like that's a good use of my time. However, on the topic of this, a big part of what we do, we're intentional about not just making people mad, because it is horrifying, but also arming people with practical knowledge. In other words, this is happening. Step one, let's acknowledge it. This house is burning. This house is on fire. Step one, my house is burning down. Step two, what do I do? What can I save? What can I salvage from there? Who can I protect? Who can I drag out of there? So it's like, point one, this is happening. Let's start by acknowledging that. That's step one. But then there has to be action. So one of the most empowering things, because again, sometimes people confront this massive opponent and this evil darkness, and they just, oh my God, that's horrifying. And it is very overwhelming to even comprehend.
Yeah.
But what's most important is that there is something all of us can do to be a part of the solution, to protect children and to prevent them from even having to experience this and then heal from it and all of that whole domino effect of things. So it really does come down to, arming people with knowledge to help them know what to look for and how to make sure their children are not easy targets. So this can happen in so many different ways, right? The difficult thing among many other difficult things is that there's not one way that this happens, one way that it looks, a one size fits all problem or solution. There's so many facets of this. There's so many different ways that this manifests in our modern society, in different communities, in different cultures, et cetera, et cetera. So many layers. What we can do though is make people aware, again, this is happening. This is happening to children. None of us should be okay with that. But more importantly, none of us should be okay with just sitting back and observing the horror or allowing the horror to continue. This is the second largest criminal enterprise on the planet. This is not a top 10 issue. This is not just one of many things we should all be. This is the second largest. If we're going by statistics, which is based on what's reported, which are very limited, this is a massive issue. The sale and exploitation of humans, but specifically of children. That's not something any of us should be allowed or able to even turn a blind eye to. So once again, we want to thank you for what you're doing to bring awareness to this subject. And also there's a essence of making it palatable for people in order for them to be able to digest it. Because let's be real, there's what we can and cannot say on the internet and on all these platforms. But also, when I have real conversations face to face with people, a lot of times if you just hit them with this really hard, disgusting truth, it's a lot like oh man, it's a lot of negativity, a lot of darkness, and not a lot of people are ready to face that. But if you help people unpack it, maybe slowly, maybe more gently, and definitely more beautifully than just being hit, slapped in the face with this evil, it's a really effective way of getting the message out there and hitting people or reaching people that wouldn't otherwise be reachable or responsive to this information. So some people may not understand, a movie is just sort of, oh, that's just Hollywood, that's just entertainment. Yes, but with the purpose of informing people and helping them connect with this idea both emotionally and also tangibly in a way that they can comprehend. So again, I just really want to thank you for what you're doing and the way that you're doing it and what you're doing, what you're putting out there in the world. This is impact for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And just, just a reminder to everybody on here, we can't do it alone. We cannot do it alone. I don't, someday I may be independently wealthy, but I can't produce $1 million movie on my own. We are taking private investment for this. So if anybody's interested in private investment, and I've spoken to some people that are very interested as well, which is fantastic. But the subject matter, we have to circumvent tradition, right? And that's why we're going through Indiegogo. It's something like, what was that? What's that TV series? The Chosen, right? The Chosen, they went around the typical system of Hollywood because it's hard to raise money for something like this. And it is, right? That's why we have an Indiegogo page up. That's why we're taking donations, and we have a bunch of great perks up there that people are taking advantage of too. Some really fun stuff. Like you can actually be involved in the making of the movie, which is cool, like be on screen and everything too. But that's why we're doing it this way, because there's a guttural reaction to the truth sometimes, especially when the truth is really harsh, and it's not fun to hear this stuff. It makes me sick when I hear this stuff. And in the movie, there's going to be 3 different perspectives. There's going to be a perspective of my character and Matt Wallace's character. I'm playing the young girl's uncle. And this uncle is ex-military. So, he has a background in rescue, right? And obviously as an operator, he's done tactical missions and stuff like that. So he uses some of that to his advantage. That's where a lot of the action-packed, exciting stuff is going to come in play. But we also see it from the side of law enforcement. We see it from the young girl's side and kind of the inside workings of this ring where they're committing these horrible crimes against humanity. So there's really 3 different stories that are all intermingling and becoming kind of this tapestry that we're weaving, and hopefully we can get her back in time.
Wow, that's so interesting. Are you able to unpack that a little bit more in terms of the opposition? So this is something we are very aware of, right? There are a lot of people that don't want us to talk about protecting children. I'm saying this super nicely because of these platforms. So in terms of raising support, in terms of the response, you said, compared to what might be a traditional movie, this particular subject is not accepted by everyone. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? No, we're going all the way down.
Be safe for the internet, but we want to unpack this. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, so this subject is taboo. I mean, just straight up. There's no coverage of it, or not until very recently. I will give the local news stations in Atlanta a lot of credit. They have been covering this, and it's not major coverage, but it's like, hey, here's a headline: 32 people were rescued, or 38 people, or 45 people, or 200 people, right? So, and arrests have been made, from these people. So I will say there has been more coverage in the last probably 6 to 12 months than I've ever seen in my life, which is really exciting. People are opening up about the potential to hear this. But on a whole, I think that there is a narrative and there is an agenda. And if what you're saying doesn't fit that narrative, then you're silenced, right? That's why we see deplatforming from major social media brands and all these things. And at this point, this should not be a mystery, right? Most people are not living under a rock anymore. We know that even our own president was deplatformed off Twitter. I guess it's not a crime to do that, but it's certainly absurd to imagine that a sitting president could be, whether you like him or not, right? Whether you like the person or not. I don't want Joe Biden to be silenced. I don't want this person. I don't want Donald Trump to be silenced. I don't want Barack Obama to be silenced, because we stand for freedom of speech. So I think there is a deplatforming and there's a silencing of a narrative that doesn't fit that agenda. And when you're trying to make a film in a world that they're trying to jam this agenda in, right? Especially Hollywood follows the message, right? The messaging. It's definitely not an accepted topic to talk about. It's definitely not something that you can, really broadcast to the masses, or certainly you can't. I couldn't go to Paramount, let's say, or I couldn't go to Sony, some of these production companies, and say, hey, we got this great idea. What do you think? They'd be like, oh yeah, get out of my office. So, I think we're kind of skirting the agenda, right? I think we're kind of skirting, or the system, so that we don't have to follow everybody else's rules. We just want to tell a good story.
Sad but true. Like, we're sarcastically laughing because we're in this fight and we see this all the time. But
yeah,
just, thinking about it from a purely marketing entertainment perspective, that's a great story, right? And like, it's not an overdone concept. It's not another action movie. No, there's this whole specific thing. Right. And it's based on reality. This is also not science fiction. This is also not some random thing you're coming up with. This is based on reality. I'm going to just, use some rhetorical questioning here, but like, isn't it ironic that anybody would be opposed to anybody raising awareness around the topic of protecting children at the simplest, most generalized form? Like, wow.
What I think
really
is interesting.
Impressive.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is that should be like the ultimate innate inner workings of your heart, of like, I want to protect children. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 15 years ago, we could have all rallied around the subject of, hey, let's make our kids safer. But for some reason, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, have decided that, no, we are going to make this impossible to talk about. And because of that, we have to do things the way we're doing them. This script, this story is good enough to 20 years ago have gone to any of these major studios and for them to go, wow, let's tell that story. That's powerful. And I'm not saying that that these studios were, you know, righteous and waiting for justice or anything like that, but it just wasn't as taboo back then. And just even more in the last 5 to 10 years, I mean, you know this better than anybody, but just for the sake of the audience, like, this is becoming increasingly more difficult to talk about. It's really strange. I just don't understand it.
It is. And again, we're being so soft about the wording, but another irony here. So we recently did a press release on Veterans for Child Rescue about the censorship. And again, I'm going to use soft wording, but there is an intentional effort, right? From my perspective, a lot of times people offer logical solutions. And the thing is that those would apply if this was a typical problem. I'm very solutions oriented, problem, solution. Okay, let's just do that. What people don't understand is that there is an intentional effort to suppress and hide this whole thing, protecting children. So we did a press release about the intentional suppression and censorship, for example, on these large platforms that we're on right now. It's, again, I'm using tactful wording here. Hashtags like hashtag child trafficking, hashtag end child trafficking, hashtag protect children are banned. If you click on them, it'll say this page does not exist. This is banned. This is deleted. Hashtag protect children. Hashtag stop child abuse. So there's a list of about 13 different hashtags. That is, I mean, I need I say more? When we talk about intentional, that's not a mishap. That's not incompetence. This is intentional. So the sooner we realize and accept that this is intentional. So realize some people are at the level where they don't even accept this is happening. No, my house isn't burning down. That couldn't happen. No. My house is totally safe. It's always been safe. There's no way it could be on fire right now. All right. The more you do that, the faster it's burning down. Just so we know, because we're ignoring this, that's what allowing this to continue burn. Okay. Point 2, though, if you're like, maybe it was just an accident. Maybe it'll just fix itself. Maybe rain will just start falling. Like, we could all have hopes and dreams that this will just auto-correct. But the faster that we realize this is intentional, the faster and better we can tailor the strategy to it. So again, I know you've seen this in your efforts, and we have definitely seen this in our efforts. Our efforts to shine the light on this and to put this in front of people's face. Here are the facts. We should not be okay with any children being unsafe in our country. That's just not okay to us. Right. Those efforts are intentionally suppressed. So we have to get creative with our messaging and with our appeal. And again, we're already dealing with this topic that's not very easy to discuss because it's so terrifying, and for a good reason.
Yeah.
But we have to get around, we'll just call them the gatekeepers, or the intentional efforts to not support and in fact suppress, deny, reject this whole topic. Again, I'm, sarcastically immune to it only because it's what we deal with on a daily basis. But I really want people to understand this, because this is not something that's just sort of randomly happening. This is something that is very protected. It's very well funded. There's a lot of top cover, like Tyler mentioned. And the other thing people should realize is that there is supply because there is demand.
Yeah.
This is something our culture is feeding, and that we have the option to continue allowing or do something about.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where people start to disconnect. Is like, I think if in your own mind you can't conceptualize or imagine yourself being a client of, let's say, this horrible crime, you just can't accept that anybody else would. But our jails are full, people. There's a lot of bad people out there that want to do bad things, and some of them look really nice and they wear suits. And those are usually the people that suppress information for others so that they can't have access to it. So,
and that don't go to jail.
Right. I mean, money and status have a lot to do with how you're charged as a criminal. There's a massive criminal case that was covered fairly recently, within the last 12 months, of probably one of the most famous child rings in the world. And there's hundreds of indictments, hundreds of, people that were involved, and not a single one is paying a consequence whatsoever. So that just tells you a little bit about what's going on. And I think at this point, most people probably know who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about. At least I hope they would. But none of this is being covered on the big news channels, right? Or very little bit. I think that's our problem, is that all of the information that flows through the television is controlled by five people. It's five major companies.
Yeah, absolutely. People do kind of, again, with the intentionality, I think we are intentionally distracted. We are intentionally misguided. I think there's also a lot of theories surrounding the truth, which can complicate it for people. So sometimes people don't know what to believe because the truth is already quite overwhelming. It's very difficult to accept it. For someone who doesn't know, who's never lived it, it's really, really a big thing to accept. But there's a lot of complications around it. And I think that's part of what also can distract people or just sort of keep them from even trying to gain an understanding. So again, it's one of the reasons that a project like this is so important, to simplify, condense, and package it for people in a way that's just more palatable, but also able to connect with them more. So back to your film and this project you guys are working on, do you guys have, you have a lot of information on this Indiegogo page, and we'll put the link back up here, but tell us about kind of when it's coming up and what you guys need in order to make this project happen.
Yeah, good question. So this is, I can't stress enough how important it is to share. It is so important to share. If, I hate to word it like this because it might come out wrong, but it's like, when you care about something like this, you want to get it out there to people. So don't use those hashtags that are banned, because you'll be banned off the platforms and then we'll get no traction, right? But using your discretion, share this to as many people as possible. And, we have a bunch of different tiers of sponsorship that you can, anywhere from $25 all the way up to $25,000, literally, right? So you can look at all the perks. We've already had some people choose the perk to be a background in the film where you actually get to be seen in the final cut. There is one spot for someone who wants to have a line in the final cut of the movie too. That's a little bit more expensive tier, but if you can only donate $5, do that, right? Because it shows the algorithms and it shows the powers that be that people care about this. So even if it's just coffee money and you can just throw $5 in there and then share it on your social media and share it on Facebook so that we can get 1 million, 2 million, 10 million people to see this, that's the only way we're going to reach our goal. I know we're trying to raise quite a bit of money for this, but the Indiegogo is just the direction that I felt led to go. So obviously getting on channels like this and getting in newsletters, even if you don't have $1, but you have a blog that has 5,000 people on it or 50,000 people or 100 people on it, blog about it. Contact me. We're very open to that. I think you can contact me through Indiegogo, or you can always reach out on social medias. You can find me at Travis Conover everywhere: Twitter, Instagram. On Facebook, you can message me. I'm pretty quick to respond. And me and Matt are just normal guys who felt called to the film industry to, shed some light in an area where there's not a ton of it, and to make really impactful, compelling stories. Again, not because we want to preach to people, but because it's what we believe in. It's why we believe films are so powerful, right? So we need your donation. That's a shameless plug. Like, we need your donation and we need you to share. Just straight up. If you don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So,
that's the thing about today's society. People, need to start acting instead of just talking about stuff. They need to start doing. This society that we live in is very soft on this aspect. And, people can run their mouths all they want, but it's not really going to do too much. Yes, talk about the topics that we're going about, but if you really want to make a difference and stand up and do something, make action, get out there and, share the message, talk to people about what you're seeing, the knowledge that you're gaining that's out there. From Travis's perspective, he's got a movie that he's creating, this will hit the masses. It'll hit people's eyes that don't even know that this type of stuff exists. I would say a couple of years ago, I didn't even know this existed. I was so oblivious to this. And, now that I'm starting to get more and more involved in this mission, I'm sick and tired of seeing some of this stuff that's being done to these children. And, I need people to stand up and take action, join the fight, get involved, and start communicating with one another and letting them know what is going on. So.
Absolutely. This is so important. So AZ Nature Girl says, how do we donate? So guys, we posted the links in the comments of where you're watching this video. And we also have this up here on the screen. It's called Indiegogo.com. You can go there and search Lions and Lambs. That's the name of their movie. This is, like he was explaining, a crowd-funded campaign. The short version is that Hollywood will not support this. So we need you guys to do this. And this is part of getting the word out there. It's part of educating the masses. It's also part of sort of getting around a system or a structure that doesn't want us to be here. So we appreciate you guys, first of all, for watching this and for being involved and just being willing to take action. We want to thank you in advance for supporting this project. Travis, tell us a little bit more, but you mentioned that you guys want to also use this project to fund and support V4CR.
Yeah. So everything that we raise on Indiegogo, 5% of it on the front end will go directly to Vets for Child Rescue. So if we raise $1 million on there, we can do the math. $50,000 goes directly to Vets for Child Rescue. But more importantly, a lot of people don't know this. And if you are wealthy, if you are a millionaire or an accredited investor, or just someone who wants to get involved at like a higher level than $25,000, what I'm about to tell you might be interesting for you, but film, anytime you invest in film, it is a 100% considered a charitable donation. So even investing into this film is as if you were giving a charitable donation, which for someone who has a large tax deferment every year, that's 100% tax write-off. So it's not like investing in, another startup company, which is not a tax write-off. You still, it gives you no tax deferment. Investing in film not only gives you an awesome tax write-off because it is a charitable donation. California passed that law several years ago so that they could keep making amazing films, and it went nationwide, right? So thank God for that. That's a good thing. The other really cool thing is that when you spend, let's say we spend $1 million in Georgia creating this film, because we are shooting it 100% in Georgia. If we shoot this in Georgia, there is a 30% tax credit. Okay. So we spend $1 million, we get $300,000 back from the state. So out of that, well, it's really not 300,000. It's really more like 200,000, 270,000, let's say, because you sell those tax credits for about 97 cents on the dollar, et cetera, et cetera. But we would get close to $300,000 back if we spent $1 million in Georgia, and we want to give half of that to Vets for Child Rescue as well. So our goal is to give you a massive portion of the back end profits of this, and then the other profits will just be split with the investors, right? So there's an investor split, there's a production company split, which is Storyteller Film Company who's taking this on, and then we want to split it with Vets for Child Rescue. So all in all, we want to give you guys 6 figures. Like, that's been our goal the whole time, so that not only can we raise awareness for millions of homes across the United States and even across the world, because really that's our goal, right? It's get it out in Georgia, create a groundswell, and then it goes to the United States, and then it goes worldwide, hopefully, right? So that's the prayer, and that's really what we want to do here. So a huge portion of that is going to go back to you guys so that you can actually do the real mission on the ground and save women and children from these horrible crimes.
That's incredible. Thank you guys so much. That means so much, like even just the intent and where I can feel your heart is, but also that actionable, that really matters. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's very practical. It's very, very practical. The tax incentives in Georgia are phenomenal. It's one reason I moved here is because I'm a filmmaker and an actor, and 30% tax credit's massive, right? You get a third of your budget back right away. And then also the fact that investing in film as a tax write-off is like huge. So it's cool. And because of those little tricks and those little workarounds, we can bring you something, but also spend a lot of this on the real deal.
Oof, that's amazing. That's so cool. Well, we really appreciate your time and being here today and explaining this to us. We're definitely excited to see, how this project's going to take off. And we know that when something's meant to be, it's much bigger than us. So it's not, it's really a God thing. When it's meant to be and when it's there for the right reasons, there can be opposition, but that doesn't really matter when it's in, for the right place. So again, we want to thank you not only for having the right intent and for wanting to take action and for caring enough, but also for actually doing this, for putting this out there. We know that a lot of people would shy away from it. A lot of people would not have the courage to do this. A lot of people would make a lot of excuses as to why this is difficult and therefore should not be done. But I mean, you said you're a father of 12 children. Like, not only does this kind of impact affect your immediate family, your community, your kids will see that kind of strength. Like, they will know. And I know this is really, they will know that their dad was on the right side of history. Generations from now, years from now, we should not be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, we just allowed that to happen. That total, crime to humanity and to children, that war on children, we just decided to ignore it. Thank you for being one of those people that are intolerant of it, but also that are putting yourself out there with this project to make this massive impact.
Yeah, thank you. And in the words of Johnny Enlow, the awakening is for your children. The awakening is for your
Absolutely.
I want to tag on that, Travis. What you're doing out there is amazing work. And, I love when an artist is able to express themselves in their creative ways. And what you're doing, you are an artist. You call yourself an actor all you want, but I think you and your vision of being able to take it from your head to be able to put it onto a feature film, that's artist capabilities. I respect exactly what you're doing. I think your biggest challenge is raising all them 12 children. That's a big feat for you, man. But you got a lot of blessings that are in your household that look up to you. You are the example and the role model that is necessary for them to see and imitate from that and build into their own personalities. So what you're doing out there, brother, I do really appreciate it, and keep up doing the great work that you're doing. And if you ever need anything, you're welcome to call me anytime.
Well, the respect is mutual, and the honor is mutual. What you all are doing is really astounding, and it takes a lot of guts, and it takes a lot of it's a large effort to take these people down and to do this kind of thing. So I just really love you guys. I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm just grateful that we can partner together and get this thing done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It will take all of us. We know this. So thank you to everyone. A few people are saying they donated and that someone says they're on the link and signing up for get a digital copy of the movie backer. This means a lot, you guys. Thank you so much for your support. And I'm sure Travis and his team is super thankful as well to help make this project happen. But this is impact. This is how we fight back. This is what we're doing. So thank you guys. Any final words or anything else you want to share?
I know you guys say that you pray to end the broadcast usually. Is that true?
Yeah, we normally do.
Do you mind if I pray?
Absolutely. Please do.
I know
Hold on. Before we get there, I want to, I was going to say something kind of different, but,
sure.
A little quote that I've been saying over and over again for the last couple of weeks. I believe it's kind of fitting, especially for you. I want to talk a little bit about legacy. That's just kind of my thing. All of us here are going to leave one, whether we want to or not. It's up to us to give that knowledge to the future people that are hearing us. And you got to go out there and decide on what legacy that you want to leave the future of this generations that are coming. And for all of us here tonight, we have been given a path and a purpose to help those that cannot help themselves. We are their beacon of hope. So let's get out there and let's start working. But yes, I would love for you to pray.
Hey man, just so you know, that word legacy in the last 2 to 3 weeks has come up almost every day. It's legacy, 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 legacy. And I keep, obviously I'm a believer. My business partner, Matthew Wallace on, you can find him on social media, but you can also find him like on IMDb. He's a phenomenal actor, really amazing guy, loves God so much, he's been supporting Vets for Child Rescue for years, actually. So, and he's how we linked up. He connected with Craig. And so anyway, just awesome shout out to him. Great man of God. So grateful to be in this fight with you guys and with him. But legacy, man, you just hit home with that, because God has been just putting that in my path. I want to cry. Every single day. And we actually went to a men's retreat just 2 weeks ago, and the theme was legacy. It was called the Men's Legacy Retreat. So this is part of the legacy, is telling these stories, and everybody that gets involved. It's not just to support a movie so that we can make something cool and put it on the big screen. There's no right of ownership over this story or over this message. This is a mission that I believe that God commissioned. And again, I don't say that with any pride or, in my own flesh. I say it as a humble servant. I just want to honor him, So thank you.
Yeah, that's what we are. We're the shell of good, and what we do with our legacy is, we got to go out there and impact the world with it. We are given this gifts, and it's up to us to be able to express and share it with the world. There's so many like amazing people that are watching this right now. A lot of them have actually stepped up, like Brian Prather. I saw him on here just a second ago. He's a good individual, Candy, and so many great people that I've met and that are actually getting up there and stepping up and being part of the solution. And, I'm so grateful for the people that we have met, and I'm excited to see the people that I'm getting to meet, in the future. The doors have opened up so much, and this last year, what has happened in this type of stuff, is, to me, is unbelievable. But it's like, I'm so grateful for everything that is coming our way, and coming not our way, but the goods way. The light that is being shined out there, it's very powerful, and I'm just excited for the future. Anyone that's watching, if you know somebody that could possibly make a difference in this arena, please reach out to us. I would love to meet them. And thank you all for being here, and I appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Lastly, I just felt to say this. If anybody wants to email me personally, please go through storytellerfilmco@gmail.com. So if you want to get a hold of me personally and contact me, storytellerfilmco@gmail.com, or you can go to storytellerfilmco.com and contact me through the submission form. So let's pray, guys. Thank you so much for this time. And it's been really great to meet both of you and to talk about some really important stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Father, we just come before you with humble hearts, with gratitude. We thank you for your mercy and grace. We thank you for this platform that we can speak on, that we can share stories of truth, and that we can honor you before all men. And I just ask that you bless Vets for Child Rescue, that you blanket them in safety, that you give them protection, but that you give them the wisdom, the knowledge and the courage to carry out their mission with just, God, with the ability to do it to incredible heights, God, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And in such a big way, Lord, that they can change thousands and thousands of people's lives, God. So I just pray that blessing upon them. I pray the blessing upon this movie and this message and everybody that's listening right now, everybody that wants to get involved. I just ask that you would increase, Lord, the love in their life, God, the protection and the guidance in their life, that you would bless them financially, Lord, as they give as well. And as we open up our hands to give, Lord, that you would also just pour your blessing into our hands, God. So I thank you for this broadcast. I thank you for this great group of people. We just love you and bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again. We really appreciate your time today. We appreciate everything you're doing. And thank you again to everybody watching and everyone connecting and donating and supporting this. It really, really matters. A few comments for you, Travis, to follow up on. Someone said, have you guys approached the TV folks of Yellowstone who also have a similar project on trafficking and abuse? Every bit helps. Not sure if you're connected there, but that's one. And then someone else says, Remy Adelik is a great person to connect with.
Okay.
So, see if that helps. Thank you guys again. We appreciate everyone. This replay will be available if you missed the entire live stream or if you want to rewatch it. It's going to be available again on the same platform you're watching it on. We're streaming on our Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, and also our Rumble account. So you guys check it out. And please do check out the links that we've been posting to support this project. Thank you again. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Have a blessed day.